Hi, so this is Dr. Cheryl. I'm at Disneyland today. My friend just walked up, and let me get, see. I had this inspiration, this idea for a video, and I was inspired by this other guy named Aaron. It starts with a D is his last name. He makes all these videos with different meditations. He was making a video a day, so I was just like, I have this to say today, so I might as well make a video where I am. So what I was thinking about today is this dynamic that happens when you have a narcissist for a parent. What can happen is you, as a child, you want your parents' love. And so a narcissist can't see their own bad. They don't want to see their shadow side. They always want to think that they're good and everything about them is good. And if they can't do that, if they're not achieving that, then they shut down and they can't love you. And so what someone can do as a child is unconsciously what we do is we agree, like one of the kids, like I'm one of 4 kids. So one of the kids will agree, or more, usually one, to take on all the bad, all the shadow side, the dark side of the parent. The dark side, I'm at Disneyland, there's Star Wars land and Darth Vader and stuff. So it's like the dark side. But they don't want to integrate and work through their own bad, their own shadow side, the parent. So what happens is the sensitive child will pick up on that unconsciously and will agree to take on all the bad of the father, let's say, if the father's a narcissist. And so what that child does is carries all the shame and all of the bad, like I said, of the father. And what happens when we carry other people's shame, let's say that child has their own shame and their father's shame and like another person in the family's shame. They just agree to be like the trash receptacle that holds everyone's shame. But what happens when we have this shame is that we feel it, we don't understand why it's there, and it's called cognitive dissonance, when you have this feeling of all this shame, but you don't know how to describe why it's there, and you want control of the situation, unconsciously again. So what we do is we will go act out and get in trouble a lot at school or whatever, and do all these things in order that we go, oh, it's because I did this and this and this, that's why I have all this shame. So we try to do actions that make it so that we can understand why we have so much shame, because we don't realize that we took it on from our parents in order to get our parents to love us. So we want our parents to love us, and we know they have taught us unconsciously again that if they can't carry their own bad, and so if they do have it, they won't love us, so we're missing love. So we carry it for them. We think we're doing them a nice thing, but we're really doing them a disservice. We're not serving them. We're becoming codependent. We're taking on a task that's not ours to take, and it actually prevents them from owning their own bad, processing it, working through it. So our parents actually don't get to work through and integrate their own actions and their own shadow side, their own dark side, that they need to learn how to integrate themselves. So we do it in order to make sure the love keeps flowing to us, but it's really not loving to our parent, and it's not loving to us. And then we act out and do all these negative behaviors that will match the level of shame that we're already feeling. And then what happens after that is we have all this shame for all these bad things we've done, and we think it's all that, but we're really carrying all this other shame from our parents and whoever else in the family dumped it on us that we agreed to take. Then we go and do addictions and drink a lot, get drunk all the time or whatever, or do other drugs, or act out in other destructive ways in order to numb ourselves from feeling this horrible shame that we feel because we took on everybody else's shame. Now, we think that our family members will be like, oh, we wish this person wasn't depressed, because another way to shut down the shame is to depress ourselves. So it's to press down. You press down on all your feelings so you don't feel anything, including the shame, but then you don't feel love. And that's the first thing you wanted in the first place. That's why you took on their shame, was so that you could get a loving parent. You negotiated to try to get someone to be a loving parent. You said, unconsciously, I will take on your shame so that you love me. Oh, we love you because you're taking all our bad. We can pretend like we have no bad. But then you end up having all this shame and then acting out and doing bad behavior that you do feel ashamed about. And then you go numb yourself with addictions and you feel shame from that. It's a whole shame cycle. And then you can't forgive yourself. And you can, though, totally forgive yourself. It's important you forgive yourself and break out of this. But what I was going to say is that our parents or loved ones or whatever act like, oh, they want you to get all better. We don't want this person, him or her, to be depressed. We want them to get out of these bad behaviors and these addictions and blah, blah, blah. But it's sad because unconsciously they don't want you to get better because they don't know why they don't want you to get better. But if you do, you would get healthy and stand up for yourself. And not that you have to stand up to them, but the energy would shift and all of their shame would go back on them. And they would have to deal with their own shadow side. But you would not be carrying it anymore. And you could forgive yourself for all of the ways you acted out to try to match the level of shame that you were feeling inside. So we try to match the level of shame because we're trying to make sense. Why do I feel so much shame? I must be bad. I must not be I must be worthless, you know? And then, of course, again, we do the addictions because they make us feel high and they finally make us feel good about ourselves because we felt so bad for so long because we've been taking on all the shame. And so it's a vicious cycle, but how to get out of it, I'm just telling you a quick way to get out of it. This is why I wanted to make this right away while it was fresh on my mind, because I listened to a song yesterday that was talking about the shame. And I forgot the guy's name. Miller is his last name. And the song was called Good News. And so a friend brought it to my attention. And it's like, and I read the lyrics and the guy's saying, you know, they want me to fly high. They say they do, but when I do, they get all mad, you know, basically something like that. And this guy is really depressed in the song. I feel bad for him. I mean, it's sad that he's dead. But I can put a link to that song too. But it's a pretty depressing song, but it's still understanding the cycle. We can look at a song and observe it and not get caught in all the emotions of it. And thank God that there are people expressing. He describes this whole pattern in a way. So what happens is they say they want you to get better, and of course they think they want you to get better, but if you get better, then all their shame goes back on them and they have to deal with their own shadow side, no matter if you've been taking it for 20 years or less or more or whatever. And so you stop carrying it, and then you don't have this need to keep doing actions that make you feel a match for that shame, because you forgive yourself for the shame. You accept forgiveness within yourself, and then you don't have to numb yourself and you don't have to be depressed because all your feelings come back. You can come back. You can have feelings again because you're protecting yourself. And so if you go to the video that I talked about for women, it's empowering women, but it's empowering a masculine or a feminine, like a man or a woman, whichever you are. It's learning how to awaken this lion strength that you have inside, which is different from ego strength. But once you know that you can be strong and you can set a boundary and you can stop enabling these other people that you were doing in the beginning because you wanted love and because you thought you were being loving to them, you know, because if I say, hey, you know, I'm your mom and, you know, go get me a 12-pack of beer and then I'll love you. It's like you think, or, you know, some kind of drug or something, and I love you during that high. It's like you think you're doing something good because you're giving me what I'm telling you what I want, but it's not what's best for me. Oh, these little kids. They're playing chase. It's so sweet. Anyway, it's not the best thing for me anyway, and you doing that actually makes me weaker to go get it. And so us doing that to our parents to try to take on all their bad oh, see, I have peace and love. So us doing that to our parents actually makes everybody weaker. It makes you weaker. You're not able to deal with your own problems and process through your own shadow side because you're carrying everybody else's shadow side. So you keep acting out. They keep putting on you. And yes, if you want to get better, then all the shame will go back to them, and they say they want you to get better. But again, if you do, then they'll have to own their own stuff. And it goes back to them. And sometimes unconsciously they'll try to sabotage you and get you back to being the bad guy in the family, so that because they're uncomfortable holding their own bad, they didn't learn how to process it. It's when people are living in their ego, they're not living in their higher, their more expansive soul self. they don't know how to handle it because they don't know how to observe. They don't know how to not identify with all that bad and just look at it and go, look, this is stuff for me to work through. I don't have to label myself as this horrible person because I have all this bad. You can learn how to integrate, learn how to work through it, learn how to love yourself in the midst of it. We're not perfect. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Just forgive yourself, give them back their bad. Don't agree to take on people's shame. Then you'll stop going to addictions to numb yourself because of the extra shame that you're carrying, because of the ways you've been acting out. And I was thinking too, in relationship with this person can be in relationships with other people that are trying to take on that person's bad. It gets in a cycle. It's a vicious cycle again. It's like this person wants someone else to take on all their bad. The kid that's taking on all the bad would love to date someone that's taking on all their bad because they're carrying too much bad. And then they disrespect the person that they're dating because that person agreed to take on all the bad, and they're doing exactly what this person has been doing their whole childhood. And so they hate it in the other person, and it really messes up the relationship. That's just another level that can happen on top of all of this. So I wanted to talk about that, and I wish you guys all love. And all right, take care.